Welcome to the interview podcast. I'm Cedric, and today we have Corporal Luzon, and we're here to tackle the question of the NWMP and how it is a part of nationalism. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. What's your next question?
So, who were some of the individuals that were key to the founding of the Northwest Mounted Police?
Well, there's our first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, who organized the formation of the NWMP in order to provide order for the Northwest provinces, as the name suggests. Then there was Lieutenant Governor Alexander Morris, who was actively involved in treaty negotiations with Aboriginal groups, signing treaties 3, 4, 5, and 6, and revising treaties 1 and 2. Finally, George Arthur French, first commissioner of the Mounted Police, established the Canadian Militia Gunnery School at Kingston in 1871.
So, what are some of the important events that happened in the NWMP, and why do you think they happened?
Well, there was the whiskey trade, which is a time in history when whiskey traders were specifically targeting the Aboriginal population. As a result of this, there was heavy consumption of alcohol among the Aboriginals, which lessened their productivity and also ended up hurting Canada's economy, since the traders were using their whiskey as a currency.
Interesting. So, is there anything else?
Then in 1885, the Northwest Resistance happened. It was a moment in time in which there was great unrest among the Métis due to crop failures. Disappearance of local bison herds and the CPR surveyors putting heavy stress on them. In 1885, the NWMP was successful in suppressing the resistance.
I'm glad that the rebellion wasn't successful, otherwise, our country's history would have been changed forever.
Oh, and I almost forgot about the Klondike Gold Rush of 1897. There were people who discovered large reserves of gold in the Yukon. As a result, people flooded from everywhere in hopes of finding gold. The NWMP was called upon to set up checkpoints around the area to make sure that everyone was getting into Canada and didn't have any criminal records or shady history.
How does the NWMP promote nationalism in our great country?
As I stated before, the NWMP ended events such as the whiskey trade, which caused widespread alcoholism among the Métis, which reduced their productivity and led them to living in poverty, contracting diseases and death in some cases. The Northwest Mounted Police also stopped the rebellion that was happening in Saskatchewan and Alberta, which would have caused a divide in the population if it was successful.
In your opinion, which do you think that the NWMP promotes more, ethnic or civic nationalism?
I feel that the Mounties promoted more civic nationalism than ethnic through their actions. They did by enforcing the law within the Northwest provinces at first, but as time went by, they not only enforced Canadian law, but also provided a sense of security for Indigenous people of the Western provinces.
Oh, I see. Well, what understandings of nationalism can be connected to the events that you have mentioned?
The NWP could be considered as a political nation because they helped enforce the law in Canada, and they also contributed in stopping the rebellion that was happening in Saskatchewan. They could also be considered a cultural nation because they have made our culture distinct from other nations by allowing all sorts of Indigenous people to have a sense of belonging and security to our nation.
Would you say that there are any contending loyalties in these events? If there are, which loyalties are they and why are they opposing each other?
For the most part, there really isn't that much you could say in terms of contending loyalties for the Mounties. The only time that this may have happened was during the March West, where they had to march through harsh conditions and endure illness and hunger. This is an example of a non-nationalist contending loyalty.
I see. For my next question, which vision for Canada do you believe in the most and identify with? And which vision do you think Canadians should aspire to?
The vision for Canada that I personally believe in is the vision for multiculturalism. I believe in this vision because we feel that everyone should be able to express themselves fully, even if they may differ slightly from the rest of the population. Everyone should be able to embrace their heritage while simultaneously embracing their Canadian identity.
Well, I think those are all the questions I have. Thank you for having this interview with us, Corporal. Would you like to say anything else?
Thank you for having me. I would like to say thank you to Sergeant Major De Galea for referring me to this interview. And I would also like to say to subscribe to this channel down in the description.
Well, I think that's the end of this interview. Have a nice day, everyone, and we'll see you on our next podcast.